Righto, welcome, I'm Adam Hooley, and today I'm just going to go through a mechanism that I discussed in a recent blog post. So I did a recent blog post about how to know when to recruit your team members, and from that I said that you need a mechanism to how to manage the capacity of your business. And what happened is I got a lot of people that emailed me directly just to ask, can we go deeper into that mechanism and how does it actually work? So I thought I would just do this quick video for you. I'm sorry, it's fairly natural and unedited, but I thought I would run through a quick whiteboard session on how this mechanism works. So what the mechanism is, it's being able to have some sort of way of managing the capacity of your team rather than just guessing, actually having a defined way of managing the capacity of your team. So you can set trigger points on when to recruit new team members or understand exactly how much efficiency you're getting out of your team. So one of the things that I've used in the past is from some benchmarking that we did a couple of years ago with 400 offices, and a lot of that came out of P&L type data. But one number that came out of that was that the salaries of the team members made up about 30% of the business. It was actually 40% for the entire team members, but just for a property management team member, it was 30%. So it was 30% property management, 10% was admin and leadership. So that 30% is a way of working out how your property managers are working efficiently in their portfolio and using that as a trigger point to know when you need to recruit to bring new team members into the business. So I'm just going to put this up here. So we need a capacity mechanism, and the capacity mechanism is about 30%. It did vary slightly between 27 and 30%, but we'll use 30% as a rough estimate. So the way we do that is we take the annual turnover. So say if we had 100 properties, and we'll stick with 100 just to keep the numbers nice and rounded today. And we know that our average turnover per property is probably about $1,500 a year. That's going to give us about roughly $150,000 in turnover. So if we say, well, what's 150,000 turnover by 30%? So we're saying, what's 30% of 150K? That's actually going to give us $45,000. So what we're saying is that should be the value of a team member's salary that we're paying for that particular role. So we're paying about $45,000. So that was just to come up with an estimate. Now you can work this formula backwards if you wanted to work out the salary percentage the other way. So it would be just simply of saying, well, we've got, we know we've got 100 properties. We know the turnover is 150,000. And we just literally divide that by 45,000, and then that will give us the percentage of turnover, 30%. So if it was a little bit different, so if you know that was 60,000, then you know that this percentage of turnover is going to be a lot lower. And then so what you can use that mechanism is to say, well, okay, this is how we're going to manage our team. We're going to manage our team around this magic 30%. Now, if I'm going to pay my employees $65,000, maybe it's because they're more senior and they're more efficient, and I expect them to manage more properties. So this doesn't have to be defined. Don't just say, right, in my business, everything's going to be 30%, or every salary is going to be 45. The framework is a little bit more dynamic in that, so you can match it to suit your business. So if you're paying a staff member $45,000, you know they can manage 100 properties. If you're paying them $55,000, maybe they have to manage 110 properties. But this is more about giving you a calculation to know exactly when to recruit new team members. So knowing exactly how this mechanism works will allow you to understand their capacity. So if we, just for this example, we work on this 30% and 100 properties. So what we're going to say is that for every individual staff member, they're going to manage 100 properties. So to make this mechanism work for growth, excuse me while I turn my back to you, what we want to do is we want to know how many properties per month are you putting on into that portfolio. So if it's 10 properties per month, again, let's just keep it nice and round. On average, so I know that may go up and it may go down, but let's say on average it's 10 properties a month that we're going to put into that portfolio. We're saying it's about 3 months to recruit and train a new team member. So it's about a month to try and find someone and recruit them in, and probably a 2-month settling in period. So what we want to do is we want to plan our recruitment 3 months prior till they reach our maximum 100 properties, which means we actually need to start recruiting at 70 properties. Okay, so that we know that by the time we get to 100, and they may not ever make the 100, but it's giving us a bit of a buffer, that we actually have someone in place. So we start recruiting, and then the next process would be, say the first month is recruiting. And then starting the second month, we will probably give them about 30 to 40 properties. We would pull them out of our existing portfolio and give them about 30 or 40 properties to manage. And we would do that for about a month. And what that allows the new team member to do, because even if they're an experienced property manager, there are nuances in your business and they're going to struggle with your systems and procedures, where your templates are, where your client files are, where maintenance issues and things like that. They're going to struggle with all that for the first month just until they get some momentum. And these tasks are going to take them 2 to 3 times longer than normal. So this allows them a month to settle in with 30 to 40 properties, ring those owners, ring those tenants, build a relationship, audit the files, make sure everything's correct and they're on board with the systems and procedures. And then what you can do is you can start pumping new properties into this portfolio, and obviously you want to start putting some new properties back into your original 100 now that you've pulled out. So you don't want to put all new properties in here, because obviously new properties take a lot of time to onboard. But you can start putting new ones in here, and then you can start topping up the old portfolio, and the cycle just goes around and around. And that gives you a defined way of managing what's the capacity of your team. So the problem that you do, if you go too early, what you find is that this property manager may sit on these 30 to 40 properties for several months and they're not actually challenged in their role. And then you find that they'll actually leave because they feel that they're not contributing like they should. If you go well beyond the 100 on this guy, so if you start recruiting at 100 or 110, you may find this property manager gets to 120 or 130 by the time you've got a new property manager ready to go. And what happens is the first thing that disappears when a property manager becomes overworked is the service. So they stop communicating with their clients and stop communicating with their tenants. And what that does is it creates lots of conflict for you and for your owners, and can end up in lost management. If you refer back to a presentation on high performing team I did, I showed you the data, how you can lose up to 25% of your portfolio over a 6-month period from a lost management. So we're talking, just rough figures, $100,000 in asset value to save a couple of months in salary of a new property manager. So it doesn't really make sense to overload your property managers and recruit too late for new team members. So one of the other questions I had was, how do I actually duplicate this framework into a departmental structure if I'm running a departmental structure? Which is a really good question. So what I do is, departmental structure is usually a collective group of people. So you can apply the same concept to a departmental structure. So if you had 400 properties, then I would just apply that whole framework to 400 properties. So say the growth rate was at 30 properties a month or 20 properties a month, let's say 20, then what we would do is we would say that's 60 properties over a 3-month period. So the maximum capacity is 400. We need to start recruiting a new team member into our departmental structure at about 340 properties. We need to start that process from happening. So again, you can still work it the same way in a departmental structure, but it's just a matter of about collating this number across the whole business rather than looking at it per staff member or per portfolio. So if you do have any questions and you do want to discuss more about this, particularly this mechanism and how you can use it in your business to manage the capacity of your team members and also understand better about the salary. So it's a very dynamic, mechanism, because you can use it in all areas of your business. And as I said before, understanding better what you're paying your staff members. So if you are in a heavy market where you're actually having to pay premium salaries for property managers, then you expect premium work for them as well, which means if you're paying someone $65,000 in a market where they're probably only $40,000 salaries, you expect them that they're going to manage more properties. Now, don't just assume that, obviously, because you don't want to overload them, but there is an assumption. So that way you can keep managing each of your portfolios around this 30% mark to make sure you maintain really good profitability for your business. And it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. Many businesses are going to really struggle with this because they don't really understand. They know how much they're paying, and sometimes it's 45 and 50% in salary, but they don't know that that's not right, or they don't know the mechanism that it should be. So this is what this does. It just nails this down for you and gives you a bit of a framework to kind of manage salaries and the total amount of properties your team member can manage. Okay, thanks for listening, and if you've got any problems, don't forget to reach out at adamhooley.com. Talk again soon.